Hey folks, welcome back to another Genshin Impact video, and with Klee's banner coming up soon, along with Kaza. Alright, I thought we'd talk a bit about Klee as well, right, in terms of if folks should probably, pull on her or not. So, Klee as a unit, right, she hasn't rerun in a very long time. It's been like 1+ year. Alright, so it's been a while since she came back, and she's finally back. So that's very cool. So, look. If you want to pull for Klee because you think Klee is a good character, she's adorable, right? Which I think so too. I think Klee is adorable. She's great, right? Then sure, go for it, right? I mean, she's generally strong enough, right, to beat most content in the game, right? Outside of maybe like pyro shields, pyro slimes, which, to be fair, other pyro characters generally don't do a great job of either, except just Klee. At least other pyro character can do like physical damage. Klee can't. Well, most other ones. Yenfei's the other one, right? So, anyways, yeah, let's talk a bit about Klee. So, a lot of people have been saying, oh, come on, Klee fell off. She's not that good anymore. She's terrible, this or that, right? Which I don't completely disagree with the general sentiment, right? But I also don't think she's that bad, especially I do think she got a bit better, right, in some specific team comps, right? For example, in the Vaporize team comp, I do think she got a bit better now with the introduction of Yela, right? The thing with Klee is, yeah, she did get a bit better in some certain team comps, but like, if you compare like some of her like stronger team comps, like a mono like pyro thing or whatever, right? She really didn't get too much buff, right? And that's slightly crazy for a unit that hasn't been back for like a year, right? Because usually a lot of units get some sort of buffs or stronger when they rerun, like for example Yoimiya, right? Yoimiya this time around coming back, she's much stronger, right? A lot more buffs than she was when she first came out, right? Xiao, for example, who was just here as well, right? He got his own artifact set, whatever, right? Did also get a bit better. So it's slightly crazy that Klee really hasn't gotten too much better, right? Despite, again, just being out for like a year, right? Which I feel like is kind of unfortunate for Klee, right? And the other thing is like Klee, despite having a rerun, like she also isn't like really featured in any of like the events and stories and stuff. So it's like, this is just a really odd rerun, right? It's a pretty odd rerun. Because again, she's not getting anything. She's really not, it's just like people really just kind of gloss over her. It's just like feels like they're just rerunning Klee for the sake of rerunning her because she hasn't been back in a while, which I mean is not a bad thing because I mean she hasn't been here in a while. But then on the other hand, it's like, okay, what are you really rerunning her for, right? It just doesn't really seem like a point to her rerunning. So it's weird. It's weird, right? So anyways. Yeah, her kit is pretty simple, right? She has some pretty powerful charge attacks, right? I mean, if you guys don't have Klee and you've played with Yenfei, right, the other pyro catalysts, they're somewhat similar, right? Obviously it's not, 1-to-1. I mean, there's no 1-to-1 characters in Genshin, right? But in some aspects they are relatively similar, right? Both being pyro catalysts. Use their charge attacks here and there to do damage, right? Obviously the rest of the kit not very similar otherwise. Got these land mines. Got these Jumpty Dumpty mines, which are very cute, that you could use, right? Which are, cool and fine. And then your alt is like, sort of like Xingqiu's Hydro Swords, except pyro. Except you can't use them off field. You have to be on field for them, which slightly sucks, but it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, she's just a pyro catalyst, right? Main damage dealer for the most part, because again, most of her damage is being dealt on field, right? Her normal charge attacks are on field, obviously, and then her ult's on field. It's just that her E, I guess, could do damage while you're off field, but overall, not a huge deal. Passive talents, you have it's the Mondstadt Charger thing. Second one is when Jumpty Dumpty and normal attacks deal damage, Klee has a 50% chance to obtain an explosive spark. And then next time you use a charge attack, it costs no stamina and deals 50% more damage. So that's actually really nice, right? Again, she could really do some serious damage on her charge attacks. right? Especially if you do get these sparks, right? So usually doing a combo of like maybe 2 normal attacks into 1 charge attack, that could definitely, you know, have good chance to at least proc that. That would be nice, right? What else? The other Ascension passive, charge attacks result in a crit. All party members gain 2 elemental energy. This is definitely really, really nice as well as a, you know, battery for your team a bit, right? So, yeah. Again, if we want to talk about upsides, Klee, one, you know, pretty, you know, nice upside is, well, Klee's, she's Pyro, and Pyro overall as an element, in terms of the elemental resonance, is always really, really nice. Pyro has some solid reactions, although debatable if you really want to play Klee in too many, you know, heavy reaction teams, right? Although it's definitely very, very fun, right? Like, Vaporized Klee is very, very fun to play with, right? And I do disagree with the motion that, oh, you can't play, you know, Vaporize with Klee at all. No, you can play Vaporize with Klee, right? Especially if you have like a team with decent amount of Hydra application, something like Yelan Xingqiu maybe, right? And it's fun, right? It's just also true that you're not going to be vaporizing every single, you know, hit Klee does, which is, you know, is what it is, right? Probably generally what, a third of her you know, damage is gonna get vaped, which is still nice, but also again, it's not the full kit. All right, so you could definitely vape with Klee. It's just not as, you know, maybe not as effective as some of her other builds, like Mono Pyro, for example, right, and stuff. So yeah. As for my issues with Klee, I feel like my biggest issues personally, right, and the reason why I'm personally not going to be pulling for her, despite, again, I do like the character a lot, right, I just find her gameplay incredibly clunky. And I don't really like that. It's just, again, maybe it's a personal preference thing. But I find her gameplay very clunky, and I'm not a huge fan personally, right? And yeah, like, if you really want to utilize her effectively, like, there's just a lot of like animation canceling that you have to go through, which is annoying to say the least. But also, like, even so, it's still very, very clunky to play with, right? Her kit, the way like her animations, how she throws out the bombs and stuff, right, just feels very unsatisfying, if that makes any sense. I know this sounds very, very not very specific, not a very specific criticism, but I don't know, I'm just being honest, right? This is what I think, right, from using Klee. So it is what it is, right? It is what it is. And again, the other options, things that you do have to consider is, well, first of all, if you are looking for a power damage dealer, right, would Klee be at the top of the list, right, in terms of if you're pulling for a power damage dealer, right? Unless you're just a huge Klee fan, then of course Klee should be on the top of the list. But otherwise, right, I mean, if you look at all the other pyro options in the game, in terms of power damage dealers, you have what? Hu Tao, which is arguably one of the, you know, well, not even arguably, one of the top damage dealers in the game overall, right? I'd say would perform generally much better than Klee. Who else? Diluc. Diluc's fine, right? But also, you do have to consider, right? Even if you do think Klee is better than Diluc generally is more accessible, right? I mean, it's harder to go specifically for Diluc, but, you know, just when you're summoning for other characters, when you get unlucky, you'd get a Diluc, maybe. Chance to get a Diluc, right? So it's probably easier to get, like, higher constellations of Diluc at least, right? Which then you could definitely argue, like, higher constellation Diluc versus a, you know, C0 Klee, right? Which, again, even then, like, there still could be an argument made against, like, C0 Klee versus C0 Diluc, right? But that aside, right, what else do we have? Xiangling, which is a 4-star, which is one of the top damage dealers in the game, straight up, right? She's probably a better, overall, I'd say, power damage dealer. Even if you wanted to run, like, damage Bennett, you could do something like that, right? Yanfei, I do feel like Klee is generally better than Yanfei, right? But again, they are relatively similar in terms of their kit, so if you really do want to go for, like, a Pyro Catalyst, you just go for Yanfei, right? Again, not saying Yanfei's better or whatever, right? But it's just cheaper. It's a cheaper option of something that feels relatively similar gameplay wise, right? Again, only relatively, because again, they only have like one big thing that they have in common in terms of their like actual kit. But overall, right? I personally don't think Klee's that good of a pull, right? Or unit to pull for. If you do want a pyro damage healer, and also do consider the other banners that are going around, right? Obviously we have Kazuha up at the same time, and Kazuha is arguably one of the, you know, best units to really pull for in the game. And then on the second half, you have Yoimiya, which is another pyro damage dealer, which I personally think is generally a bit better than Klee, right? Again, especially with a lot of the buffs that Yoimiya has been getting with artifacts, teammates, and such, right? I do feel like Yoimiya is going to be really, really, really nice this time around. And obviously, the big difference between those two, Yoimiya is like almost exclusively single target versus Klee being AoE, so maybe you can make an argument there. But I'd say generally the amount of like damage that you could actually hit with Yoimiya is just really, really, really good, right? And the different like comps that you could really build with her, I think, are much, much more flexible than Klee. So yeah, there's also that considered. Also, Sumeru's coming soon, so if you're interested in any, you know, Sumeru characters, maybe want to hold off a bit as well, right? As for her constellations, she has some, you know, nice constellations. I mean, her C1's not bad, right? Her C2 is very nice as well. It's a rare defense decrease skill in the game. Her C3 is just her Dumpty thing, which is, you know, whatever, right? This is what, C4, right? This is nice, right? It's another, I guess, an option for like sort of a off-field damage-ish, if you want to call it as that, because she's literally switching off the field. But also this is, you know, a decent amount of damage. Like, I feel like almost all of Klee's constellations are solid, right? Her C5 is obviously for her burst over there, and then her C6 is, you know, extra energy gen and then pyro damage bonus as well, right? Which is obviously very, very good, especially if you're running mono pyro team, right? So if you're like a massive Klee fan, I guess, right? I feel like all her constellations are at least, you know, usable. Right? Again, maybe not like C3, not that much, right? But then again, it's pretty standard. It's not like a, you know, can't really complain about this either, right? So yeah, again, in my opinion, Klee not that worth pulling at the moment, but still, it's a unit that could, you know, if you have the right team, right build around her, you could definitely clear most content in the game. So it really just depends on how much you like Klee as a character, right? You could definitely go for her, right? So yeah, I just really, really wished that before they reran Klee, that at least, you know, gave her more like new things to play around with, right? In terms of artifacts or teammates or weapons, right? Oh, I guess another nice thing about Klee is if you are looking for like weapons, her weapons are pretty cheap, right? Her good weapons, Widsith at R5 is very, very, very good for her, right? Being a 4-star weapon, you know, that's relatively cheap option to throw in there for Klee at least, right? Although her artifacts are not the best to farm, because I want to go Crimson Witch domain, which is not the most resin efficient domain. But anyways, whatever. That's me in this one, I guess. Hope you all enjoyed. Guys, think in the comments down below. Let me know, guys, if we're pulling for Klee or not, and reasons for or against, right? So have fun, folks. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. We'll see you guys in the next one.